All right, guys, we're back. Back with a new periscope. New periscope. Pat Stedman periscope. We are rolling. We are rolling. We are rolling. And we're a bit early. Now, you might be wondering, why are we early? Why are we starting things a bit early? Well, for the same reason you might be hearing me talk a little bit more quiet. Because, guys, something occurred to me. Something occurred to me when I was going to. And that's that I haven't done a periscope in New York since I've had the baby. Now, because I'm in New York, short little trip, I was not expecting this sort of situation because, the situation being that a baby can cry. And when you have a tiny New York apartment, you don't really have a place to go when a baby's crying. There's at my parents' house, there's plenty of space, usually. So anyway, we're going to do the best we can. She's asleep. Hopefully she's going to go get fed right after that, and we'll be rolling. But let's do just real quick with the wine. We got some fun stuff today. So we've been continuing the Piemonte theme. As you guys know, the Piemonte theme, we did Dolcetto, we did Barbera, and Barolo Barbaresco are coming, but I want to warm up first. I want to warm up with this before we get on to the big hitters. And we're going to tackle Langhe Nebbiolo. Okay? Or really not just Langhe Nebbiolo. We also have a Nebbiolo d'Alba here too. So these are the wines. We got a three set this time. And so just to give you a quick idea about Langhe Nebbiolo, I don't have the book here with me, but Langhe is the sort of general area around Barolo and Barbaresco, okay, which is grown with Nebbiolo as well. Most likely the highest quality grape by most people's standards. So the problem with Barolo and Barbaresco is that they're expensive and they take a couple of years to age. Langhe Nebbiolo does not. So you get an ability to basically see, okay, this is what Nebbiolo is like. And guys, I have to tell you, Barolo and Barbaresco aside, I love Nebbiolo. I think it's a super elegant grape. It's as elegant as Pinot Noir. It's got like a lightness to it. A little more tannic structure than Pinot Noir. I mean, it's definitely a different grape, but I love Nebbiolo. It's probably, if I had to pick a favorite red grape, I might say Nebbiolo. I've almost always enjoyed it. So I'm excited to try these. Now, if I'm taking a guess here, I'm thinking this one's going to be the best. And the reason for it is that you have Langhe Nebbiolos from around the area of Barolo and Barbaresco, but sometimes you have them from Barolo themselves. So you have a producer like Borgogno who produces Barolo and Barbaresco, but sometimes they don't want to put it all on the Barolo Barbaresco. So they got a little catchy label here. So I'm thinking this one's going to be the best. And also, you know what? I got at Italy. So the Italy wine store. So I have a feeling it's going to be a little nicer. But let's see. So Nebbiolo d'Alba. This would be my guess of the least impressive, but I think they're all going to be good. They put James Suckling. I don't know who that person is, but they promote him a lot. So it's got some nice tannin to it, light tannins. Kind of a weird, almost fishy aftertaste there, which you sometimes get with a red wine when it has to open up. So I think this one needs to open up a little bit more. Because of the tannins, Nebbiolo can need a little bit of aeration. So we could be hitting some of that right now. Yeah, kind of a weird fishy aftertaste, to be honest. I have gotten that before. It's temporary. La Sacrestia. Let's try this one. So tannins on this one. Really coaty. Interesting. These need to be decanted because the tannins are really grabbing right now. They're really grabbing right now. And now for the big hitter, Borgogno. No name. Not even a question. This is the best. Not even a question. The first two I think are going to improve as they open up more, but they're all going to improve as they open up more. And this one, you're getting a lot of the complex fruit notes that you would get in a Barolo or Barbaresco. All right, I just want to describe some of this. The oak is much more integrated, the tannins, and you get more jammy fruits. Yeah, that's definitely a steal. I think that one was, well, I don't know about a steal. It wasn't cheap, but it was like $25 maybe. Definitely the best of the three, about $10 cheaper. But, I think that they're all going to really scope. I think that they're going to open up a little bit more. But guys, first things first, just want to give you guys a little update. I hope you watched the video with Paul I had the other day. Posted yesterday, posted a little late. A little sloppy in the sense that I did not edit out some things. But you know me, I'm a live guy. I'm off the cuff. Kind of whatever happens, shoot from the hip. So editing's not my strong suit, and I realized that if I was going to try to edit it, I was going to keep putting off uploading it. So I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. It's going to go up. It's going to have me telling my dad to get out of the room and then walking down the hallway and then have a baby cry later on. It's going to have that stuff. Off the dome with Pat, right? But if you listen to that, you got a taste of the energies that we should be coming in. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it hard. I'm feeling it real hard. I think that the downloads and the shifts that have been occurring have been massive recently. I feel like I'm going through more layers of growth than I have, certainly since last summer. I mean, that's sort of, I told you guys, May to September was a big growth period for me last year. But it feels like right now that I'm doing a lot of crystallization of that stuff. And I've been seeing this with a lot of other people too. I mean, I sent that tweet out earlier today, but people coming to me, working with me recently, we're clearing out like decades of karma, decades of patterns, decades of baggage. And I know I'm good. Okay, I know I'm good, but I also have been doing this long enough to know that things are moving a lot easier. Before, it would be a lot of like, and I don't think I had as much skill at the time, but I was still good then. I mean, I've been very effective at this stuff since 2017, right? 2018, 2019. By 2019, I mean I was really crushing it with this stuff. Now it's like the movements are happening so quickly. They're happening so quickly that I'm almost like looking at my coaching packages and I'm like, well, one, I have a big client base, so maybe it's time to cut back the hours further just because maybe it's not even necessary. I've been able to move people so much faster than I used to be able to. But I know it's not just me. There is some massive energies coming in here. And stuff that's been stuck is just releasing. It's just releasing right now. Now, before that happens, we're getting a lot of triggers. Okay, we're getting a lot of trigger points. A lot of stuff coming into our, a lot of relationship separation. But I have to tell you that, it's just amazing to see how far we've come. Because I'm going to be talking more about this as the month goes on. But I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason a lot of you guys like me, or at least watch these things, is because you see a lot of my journey as your journey. And so a lot of the things that has been happening and shifting for me over this past year, things that have happened to me, things that have gone through this sort of lot of roller coaster, we've all been sort of on this roller coaster together. We've all been going through similar patterns. And I think that part of my role is as sort of ambassador of the collective, so to speak. I hate to use that fucking language, but the point is that if back in 2015, 2016, if you were to have people want to separate from you or to have fights with people, it was so painful. I mean, I remember it so badly. It was so painful. And it's actually shockingly not that painful right now. And it's not because that there's more love for the people, but there's more and more of a sense of choices, and we're taking the paths that we need to take the place, and we play certain roles in this dynamic. And that's what I want to start off with this stuff, because as we leave winter, okay, we're already seeing the shoots of spring in a lot of places. We're starting to feel that spring energy, the longer sunlight, a little bit of a warmer days. I think we're going to get some 60s. I like you too. I like you too. I don't know who you are, but I like you too. And feeling this as we sort of move out from winter, right? Winter, this sort of period of darkness, this period of death. And we move into spring, which is birth and which is life, right? The beginning of life. I think it's really important for us to honor the darkness and to honor a lot of the people who maybe have played certain roles. Maybe we've been frustrated with them. I think it's time for us to let that stuff go. It's time for us to let it go, because it's not serving anymore. The polarity, this sort of this stuff isn't serving anymore. I think it's really essential for us to just be grateful for what our relationships were with these people, and to be hopeful about where they will go. And I think that we will find a lot of these relationships return, and they're going to be better than ever. But also to, as Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead, not in a condescending way. It's just in the sense that, we can't try to hold on to old things. Like I had, for instance, you guys saw that I did a wine tasting with my dad the other night. Well, our wine group hasn't gotten together in a year. This would have been like the year that we haven't had anything for the wine group. And we had tried to do some stuff in person. People declined. We tried to do some virtual stuff. And now people basically, because of things that have happened to me, a lot of them don't even want to participate anymore. And, I felt that for my dad, and it hurt a little bit for me too. But I was also like, well, you know what? I'm not going to hold anything against these guys, because these guys mentored me and I learned a lot from them, and they shared all sorts of incredible wines over the years. And, what is the reason? I was like thinking, I was remembering moments of kindness that they had given me in the past. And I was appreciating that, rather than trying to be like resentful that now now they don't want to be associated. Now they're angry at me. Like, they're allowed to be angry at me. They're allowed to experience what they want to experience. That's okay. And maybe that's the end of the group, but I don't want it to feel as if this is like a terrible thing. This is what it was kind of an inevitability that the group was going to end at a certain point. Kind of feel that, and I feel like that's just like a microcosm of so many other things that we've had. And as that's happening, we're connecting with so many other people, right? We're connecting with so many other people who are on similar new trajectories. And one of the things that I've been so excited about with spring and the summer to come beyond that is just this sense of like collaboration. Like, I was thinking about today, and I was like, I'm ready for this lull to be over. Like, I want to move. Like, I want movement, right? I want adventure. I want to be on the edge. I want to be on the edge. I want to start to build, right? And it's not just like I want to build a business to make a side income, which I have no disrespect for that, but I'm just speaking personally. I want to feel on an adventure. I want to be meeting cool people and building cool things, and really standing up for things that I really believe and that I really care about, the world that I want. And I think that we're moving towards that. And that there's this, and I don't know, talking to Paul, you can talk about Mars and Mars kind of directing this energy, but you just feel it. You just feel this push forward. And you feel the old sort of fear structure. It's not going to endure in the spring energy. So I want you guys to remember that. And as we build through this first part of March and move beyond, like, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, and stay grounded. And I want you guys to have an attitude of enormous positivity, just like out there. There is not a chance that, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. but I don't want this kind of like enjoy watching the movie. There's too much passivity with that. I'm not talking about doing anything crazy, obviously. What I'm trying to say here is I just want you guys to feel energetically engaged with the process, right? And to be excited and to be thinking about what you can do and how you can build, right? What are you trying to build? Focus on trying to build that. Every time you focus on trying to build a new world, the old world further and further and further. Because the reality is that a lot of people are only staying with the old world because they can't even conceive of what else is going to happen. We talked about abusive relationships. A lot of the thing is like, well, what are you going to do without me? Well, you build a new world and you show them this is actually how it can be. It can be different. It can be different. I think as men in particular, I mentioned in that tweet today about how all this patterns and all this trauma getting healed for guys and their hearts opening up. It's really important because I know the master hates to hear this maybe, but men really have been shut down emotionally. They've been really shut down. And a lot of the backlash crap that you see has been because of that. And I have seen in spirituality communities a massive imbalance of tons of feminine energy. And I think it's pretty good energy, to be honest. I'm not saying that these women are wise, but they've been lacking the balance. And the guys that hang out in those communities, I'm not saying they're bad people, but a lot of them are just too, my perspective, they don't have enough of an edge. And it's funny, when I was in one group in particular, and I was talking about David Data, I was like trying to pace, like, oh yeah, he's big male spiritual leader I really look up to. And a lot of these guys felt really like, oh, you like Data? Like, oh, yeah, Data's on a pussy. Data's on a pussy. But he's been kind of a voice crying out in the wilderness. But I don't, so many men are stepping forward in that power, right? In that power. So I think we got some good stuff to come with that. I wanted to mention that. And we're going to keep things updated. As things evolve, but not holding on to any dates or anything like that. All right. Now, there was one topic I wanted to tackle real quick before we go into the Q&A. And this was something that came up on a coaching call recently. And I just, I have a couple that I want to write about, but this one I feel like is probably better to talk about. So one of the sort of dilemmas that a lot of guys will have is that if they go out and they find out that a girl is with another guy. Now, I don't mean with necessarily physically, but maybe she's married, maybe she's in a relationship, okay? And she is really open to hooking up. And maybe not just open to hooking up, but more likely pursuing, right? Because we're talking about the dilemma of the guy trying to figure out what to do, right? And this gets a lot of controversial opinions, or controversial is maybe not the right word, varied opinions in sort of male self-help, right? What are you supposed to do in these situations? Hey, what's up, brother? So what are you supposed to do let's use a more extreme example because a relationship's kind of squishy. So let's say a married woman comes up to you and she's really open to hooking up with you. She's kind of really giving you a lot of signals and she wants to hook up. And what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do in this situation? Is it unethical? And I think this is where ethics breaks down because a lot of guys will tell you that, no, it's not unethical to do this. It's not unethical to hook up with her. She's married, sure, but it's her relationship. She's making her own choice, right? Now, I don't know whether or not it's unethical. It's not that I don't know whether or not it's unethical. I just think that this is missing the point. Let's put it that way. Because I don't think that you have any responsibility to preserve that woman's marriage. Because the point that comes back is a very logical point from guys. And I think it's a great point. It's totally true as well, which is that if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else, right? If it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. So she is trying to hook up with somebody else. She's trying to cheat, right? She's trying to cheat. So So why do you care? So why do you care? And the reality is that, well, you shouldn't care necessarily. It isn't your responsibility. However, 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 that is not that's not the reason that these guys come into the quandary. It isn't your responsibility to save her marriage, and you have to break out of the pattern of that because that's taking away her choice, right? That is her relationship, her decision. That isn't your responsibility. However, however, what is your responsibility is your energy. And this is the subtle point here I want to get. The reason that some guys this at all and other guys do, and I don't say this with any sort of judgment, is that for some guys it is impacting their energetic state and for other guys it is not. So if you're a guy at a certain energy level and you don't fucking care, you could even be the same guy at a different place in your life. You're not going to care. You're at a certain vibration point, and you decide to do it, and it doesn't make a big difference for you. But if you're at a different point, or you're a different guy, then what you feel, okay, this is it, right? What you feel is you feel her energy, which her energy is deceit. Okay, her energy is somebody who is in the dark place because she's out trying to fuck some random dude when she's married, and she can tell you all sorts of stories. It doesn't really make a difference. And you're feeling that. And you know what's very interesting is that very often you find it out inadvertently, right? You actually feel it beforehand, and then you find the evidence that explains it. It's like something's off with this, and then you find out, oh yeah, she's in a relationship or she's married, right? But she's making these moves. What matters is your energy, okay? And when you hook up, you will receive some of that dark energy, and that will make you feel dirty. Now, we try to logically try to say, well, I'm a bad person because I helped her because she was married and I facilitated cheating. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's one way to look at it, but I don't want us to focus on that because I think that that's the problem. Think of it just simply from the standpoint, because it isn't your responsibility. It's kind of, well, I don't think I can't do anything, so I hope it stays. I hope it stays. But in that situation, as a man, it's not your responsibility to save her marriage. That's nice guy behavior. That's savior complex. But what you are responsible for is your own energy and your own boundaries. Yes, it's about keeping yourself clean. And so I think it's better to look at it from the standpoint of qualification, that you don't want to hook up with this girl because you don't want to deal with, you don't want her negative energy into your field. You don't want it there. And I think that guys struggle with this because of programming we receive that, well, you should fuck any girl, or at least every attractive girl who offers it. And I really want to push back against this. I really want to push back against it because I feel like it is one of the most destructive beliefs that guys have. It is this completely dehumanizing, and I would argue even feminized perspective that turns men into some sort of toy. And I think it's actually like a pornographication of male and female dynamics, that the man is some sort of sexual service vehicle for a woman when she's horny, and that he's not an autonomous individual with his own energy that he can conserve and not give out when he wants to, right? Society has elevated the slut to such a degree that any girl who wants to get her rocks off feels it's like she should be entitled to it. And if she wants you, then you should provide it. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. As a man, as a man, you do not have to sleep with a girl who wants sex. You can say no. You don't have to do it. And it doesn't make you less of a man because you turn down sex. It actually makes you more of a man because sex is not controlling you. Imagine like how alpha are you if you need to sleep with every woman who offers herself to you. That sounds like somebody who doesn't really have a lot of boundaries. That sounds like somebody who's getting a lot of validation from the sex. And maybe he can perform. I mean, there's some guys who can perform, but a lot of guys can't. I think the more open your heart is, the harder it is to perform in these circumstances. And I've actually seen this with guys who, when their heart was more closed, they could perform. And then when their heart opened, they couldn't do it anymore. It's pretty crazy. But I want to mention it because it's really important. Drop this bullshit, okay? I've said this before. Your dick is a barometer of truth. Pay attention to what your dick says. And if your heart connects on to your heart, in many cases, more than it's going to respond to a nice figure on a girl, right? And that's one of the reasons why, by the way, a lot of guys start to get turned on when they kiss. You know, it's kind of interesting with kissing, but kissing creates an energetic circuit within the body. Kissing is not some sort of physical, visual thing. Kissing is an energetic connection between a man and a woman. That's why the kiss is so important. The kiss creates the energy bridge between two individuals. And so when someone's a good kisser, you have good sort of, it is usually a pretty good barometer for the level of what you're going to get from the sex. Not 100%, but it certainly, it's a part of the process of the connection, right? So I want to say that. Let's stop thinking about these things. Am I a bad person if I hook up with a married woman, or if I hook up with a girl in a relationship? It's not about that. Who cares about that? It's not your responsibility to deal with her relationship bullshit. That's true. But it is your responsibility to protect your energy. So if her bad behavior is going to rub off on you, then that's reason enough to not want anything to do with it. All right, cool. So let's get into these questions. All right. Yep, it's about being cheap or not. Hey, man, love everything you do, and it's a blast on. I wanted to pose a question for your Q&A. Thoughts on video games? Is it? Absolutely, it's a trap. Absolutely, it's a trap. Now, look, I've mentioned something about this before, and I've been really thinking about this a lot because, you know, I've been trying to explore my own use of vices over the years, and what kind of things come back up, what kind of things sneak back up. You know, for me, there was always four things, right? There was social media, there was alcohol, there was porn, and there was video games. Okay, those were the four that snuck up for me. And what's interesting is that one would cascade to the other, but if you were also to take away one, then there was, to a degree, more of an incentive to lean into another. And I was thinking about this because the reality is that it's an emotional thing. Addiction's emotional. You know, I have nothing but love for 12-step programs. I know plenty of guys that's changed their life completely. I think there's one piece that 12-step programs miss. 12-step programs are really, really good at, you know, eliminating a lot of shame around a behavior. That's the whole process of going and having to apologize to people, right? That you hurt because of your addictions. But there's always the void. I haven't seen a single person go through a 12-step program who has come out without some sort of, there's like something that's hanging over them a little bit. And I think that what it is that there's, you know, you can replace it with whatever. You can even replace it with being successful. but there's still that emotional need that exists that was behind the addiction. And so what is the emotional need, and how do you deal with that emotional need? What is that emotional? What is that emotion? What does it need to express? And the thing that I'm coming to terms with and that I'm really thinking about is that I think for a man, it really has to do a lot with the desire for. Well, okay, I think there's two parts to this. There's maybe some emotional trauma that leads to an anxiety response that leads to escaping. Okay, that's an important part of an addiction. But part of it is also a sense of like, I want to be doing something. Now, you could argue that that's some level of an anxiety response, but this desire as a man to want to press on or want to do something, I think that if you look on a structural level in particular, because it affects so many guys, video games, drinking, these are all ways for guys to escape. But in defense of these guys, what are they escaping from? A lot of guys are living in a prison structure. So they don't really have, or at least have, but it's difficult for a lot of them to see a better alternative. I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I talked about this before on a Periscope a couple weeks ago, I think. What's the point? Why do I care about this stuff? Why can't I just build in a video game instead? Why not just do that? What difference does it make? Well, the difference is that, and if you allow yourself to feel into it, and every so often, if this impulse comes up, I'll allow myself to feel into this, then I'll play the video game. And my rule for myself is like, yeah, okay, play it. Go ahead and play it. But how do you feel when you're playing it? And the reality is the soul knows the difference between what's real and what isn't. And at the end of the day, I love wine, right? But we know it's really just it's a celebration. It's a wonderful thing, but very often it can become a vector to say, hey, let's not lean in. Let's just forget about it. Let's just not think about it. And I think if you have a really strong life force, in some ways you can be more inclined for it. It's interesting. Do you guys remember back then, back in the day, when they used to say that more intelligent people drank more? Do you remember that? And the argument that was being made for it was that, oh, well, they're so smart, they want their mind to stop thinking. And that's a way that they can kind of interact with regular people. That was like a big argument that went around. And I don't think it's actually an entire point, which is that intelligence is correlated, not direct, but it's correlated with vibration. Because if you're higher vibration, it's impossible to be stupid. Okay? Now, you may not be a physicist, but it's impossible to be stupid because you have a higher perceptual range, right? Whereas you could be really, really intelligent, but if you're super neurotic, well, guess what? In a certain sense, you are stupid because you could create an elaborate computer program, maybe, but you're going to miss key assumptions, and your computer program is not going to operate the way that you would want it to because your anxiety rubbed off on the program. So this is all very long-winded. I'm extrapolating quite a bit. But the point is that, yeah, it is a trap for you to avoid, I guess. I think it's a smart idea to avoid. Yeah, it's intelligence versus wisdom. But I think you get to a certain point of what's more functional. Like, wise people have no problem getting anything they want. They can draw things towards them. I guess they both have their uses, but you're not going to get fooled very easily. An intelligent person can get fooled very easily because they don't have emotional intelligence. And you could say, I know people hate that word, emotional IQ, but maybe it's not technically correct, but it's effectively correct. Your ability to read the room, read people, understand the world is way more valuable. It's way more valuable than some sort of spurgy skills. I hate to say it. Although they're all, it's good to have those kind of things. A suspicion has been confirmed. Number 2 is slightly corked. And 1 is much better than when it opened. Although it's still just a very light soft tannins. Light body soft tannins. Bigger but soft tannins. This is a little corked, still quite drinkable. And obviously this third one rocks still. Okay, so yeah, anyway, I guess here's my point with video games, this closing thought, is that don't get into the habit of doing it because it's going to be harder to get out of it once you get into it. But I think it's important to ask yourself, why am I doing this? What am I doing? If you're more in your body, the reality is that if you get really grounded with yourself, you could go and play a video game for a little bit, but you'll be able to also leave it. And what I've found is that most people who play video games have a hard time leaving it. And I'm one of these people. My relationship with video games has been 1 to 2 like weekend binges a year, basically. Like I'll spend maybe 5 days, right, 4 to 5 days a year playing video games, and that gets less and less. It used to be more in the past, and it's only usually like one game or something like that. I become more and more aware of what's going on here, and the reality is that this last year, it started to really, in the sense that I used to go on these like benders and stuff where I really like lean into the shadow and what is all this dark stuff. And recently, I've just been like, if I had the impulse to play it, I'd start to play it and be like, wow, I don't even really want to play this. What am I doing? Right? It's like the pattern is played out, to go back to what we talked about at the beginning with spring. So yeah, you want to avoid it. But I think it's also important to understand why you want to be drawn into it to begin with. Because certain games are different than others, it's true. But I found that for a lot of guys, there's like especially with like strategy games and stuff, there's a desire to build things, right? There's a desire to build. I think strategy games are usually more addictive for guys because it really channels the creative and productive energy into a system that doesn't produce anything. So be aware, but it is a hijacking. There's just no question about it. So let's keep going down here. Let's keep rolling with this stuff. So, where can I find friends who have similar interests? I've gone swing dancing, taken Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and taken firearms courses, and I'm usually the only guy in my 20s there. How do I send out that signal to find others who are like-minded? I want to find people who are doers, and I'm having get-togethers where people just hang out and talk. I want more than that. This is tough. You guys maybe heard of the term old soul. So if you are, if you're an old soul, then what that means is that your consciousness level is way above your age range. Okay? And so what tends to happen to these guys is they struggle to meet women that they're attracted to both physically and psychologically. They tend to have a situation where the women that they're attracted to psychologically are older than them, but maybe they're not physically attracted to those women. And the same kind of thing happens also with a lot of the friends that they meet. Because a lot of guys in their 20s don't really do too much, especially the first half of their 20s. Just kind of fuck around. There's not anything for them to go off and do. And society, in many ways, actively encourages them not to do things like that are serious. It encourages them to go to college, which is like a 4-year party, and then maybe go travel. If they want to go travel, they can maybe go travel. But the point is that a lot of them are not trying to build things because a lot of them are trying to just check the boxes, right? There's a lack of direction. And so if you're a guy like the person asking, who's, really trying to become a man, well, the reality is that you're going to have a hard time finding a lot of guys your age who are like that right now. Where can you go to find guys like that? Honestly, you're right on it. You're in the manosphere. Connect with people on here. Connect with people on here because I'm, it's kind of silly on one hand, but it's not. I mean, people say Twitter's a dating app. It's more of a dating app than it's ever been. But it's also a place to meet friends, and friends who are all unique. People, all these guys are unique, but they're into the same fundamental stuff for the most part. They care about the same fundamental stuff, and they care about it for the demographic. And there's a lot of, I can promise you, man, there are so many guys, younger guys, who are in the manosphere right now, under 25, who want to do all these things. You got to connect with them. And maybe they don't live in the same city as you, but I think that the mood of this next decade is going to be a lot of people moving to new locations to build communities, right? I think we're going to see a lot of that. Look at Lambros. I mean, what a great group of guys. Lambros guys are all super young, right? They're all super young. I think the vast majority of people in that group are in their 20s. And the founders are all in their 20s. I believe they're all in their 20s. And right now, yeah, there's a lot of virtual stuff, but they're going to have more in-person things, and you're going to see more of those guys working together on projects, moving to the same location, same cities. I can tell you guys that I can go to any place in the world pretty much, and I will be able to know somebody. I was parking my car 2 months ago, and I ran into one. Are you Pat Stedman? It's like, Jesus. Yeah, this is gonna have to come because things can't just stay online all the time. I mean, online is a great way to bridge gaps, to bring people together, but it's not. This isn't the replacement for the real world. This is an incubator for the real world. This is an incubator for things. It's for people to find their tribe, but you don't build your tribe virtually. You build it in person, or you solidify it in person. At least you solidify it in person. And that's why you had, like, with the Tates and the War Room, I mean, they got guys come there and the guys live with them or live right nearby them, at least for a time. It's really important. It's really important stuff. I will be doing something in the future like that. For sure, having more and more in-person events. I mean, honestly, I was going to have one already, but you got to roll with the times, don't you? You got to roll with the times. If all the bars are closed and you've been arrested, I don't know if you can. It's not quite the time period, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. All right, I guess I'll keep answering a couple more questions. Why not? Let's try to bang some of these out. Another important subject. What is it? Okay, how to deal with wife, girlfriend, long-term relationship cranky mood. What does it mean to deflect the energy, like it is often mentioned? For me, it's hard to translate the theoretical aspects to practical situations. Okay. So I think the big thing to recognize when wife, girlfriend, whatever, is cranky, why is she cranky? What's going on here? In life, if there's one thing that you can learn, is that to distinguish between acute and systemic issues. All right. I was putting some plates away this morning, putting some utensils away, and on my finger. And it really fucking hurt. I might get a black and blue finger. I don't know. It really hurt. That's acute, right? That doesn't long-term impact my life. So something rough happens to your girlfriend and she's in a bad mood. She's allowed to be in a bad mood for a little bit. She doesn't have to be ever positive. That's one of the biggest bullshit things that the spirituality community ever put forward, is that you can't feel negative emotions. No, don't feel negative. It's not good. Don't get angry. No, fuck you. Fuck you. I'm going to get angry if I want to get angry. I'm going to feel sad if I want to feel sad. You have to feel these emotions. Otherwise, they get stuck. And then you become some sort of spirituality caricature who's just a big avoidance pattern, not dealing with any of the real shit. So if something happens and she's upset, then let her be upset. Give her the space. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes some women want to vent. A lot of women want to vent. Some want to be left alone. And they want to be given their space. Let them process it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So sometimes the move is to avoid them, or to, I think it's better to say, give them space, because you acknowledge what's going on and basically like, all right, yeah, go ahead, do what you got to do. And then you come back later on and you can do some things to make life a little easier for them in the meantime. But mostly it's about them getting over it. Now, if they are, it is like engineering, 100%, Jackson, 100%. Now, if this is a regular thing with them, then you might need to address the elephant in the room, which is how they process emotions. Okay? Because it could be, okay, they're always stressed, they're always pissed off, they're always, well, look, tough stuff happens. But if you are unable to process these difficulties in the right way, then you're going to be constantly miserable. And the reality is that a lot of people like this will find reasons to be miserable because their way of responding to everything is the same. So it doesn't matter whether it's like they didn't put a tomato on your cheeseburger and you wanted a tomato, like, or whether you lost your job. So that's the thing to deal with directly, I would say. If she's in a cranky mood all the time, you say, like, I'm sick of you being in a cranky mood. I'm sick of dealing with this bullshit. And you can maybe approach it a little bit more gently at first, but she's sort of shutting down any sort of, you should enforce your boundaries and be like, you've got a really shitty attitude. A lot of women will stop their shitty attitude, at least for a short period of time. Now, the question is, how do you shift it bigger, shift it more long-term? And that's a delicate process, because otherwise you'll do that and she'll respond to you. But then what? You can get kind of into a power dynamic. So that's a trap. So that's one of the things I work on very often with coaching. So I hope that answered the question. All right. How can I give an adrenaline rush to a female without spending